Do you fish? No. You know, people who don't fish think that fishing is lazy or boring, but it is the complete opposite. There are 100 little decisions to be made, variables to be considered, and you're never quite sure what made the difference. Did I cast too high, too far to the left? Did I reel it in too slow or too fast? Is the lure too shiny or too dull? Do I stay here or should I go over there? And you know it's not luck, but you do not know by how much. Because I am never disappointed out here, because I don't expect anything, because anything is possible. I can be hopeful out here, even in failure. Because I know if I just go out there around that tree, it might be different. Something might be different. Something I do might make a difference.
Just gonna send it.
Fluorocarbon I will use, but I have an extremely sensitive rod.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
That's what she said.
Yeah.
On my property, you didn't win in my yard.
Wait.
All of you.
Daddy, chill.
What the hell is even that?
You're listening to Fishing the DMV with your hosts, Thomas Ahrens and Jared Mounts. Fishing the DMV is brought to you by Jake's Bait and Tackle, located in Winchester, Virginia.
If that doesn't get you jacked up, I don't know what will.
You're listening to Fishing the DMV with your hosts, Thomas Ahrens and Jared Mounts.
You know, I'm acting like a real professional over here tonight. How is everybody doing? Good evening. Welcome back to Spirits and Ghost Stories. I'm your host, Thomas Ahrens.
And I'm Carly Bird.
And yeah, I know that's the wrong stream. So tonight I am joined by my lovely wife and actually my co-angler for last night's Thursday night derby on Big Slack on the Potomac River.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to be talking about basically her first tournament ever. Right now she's batting 1,000 when it comes to fishing tournaments. I think she's been, how many times have you actually been out on the water now?
I've been out of the water with you multiple times. Have I actually fished every single time? No.
How many times have you actually gone fishing?
Probably like 5-ish times with you. Before that,
Out of 5 years?
Before that doesn't count.
When was the last time you went fishing before this previous time?
Chickahominy.
Which was?
A year ago.
Yeah. So you
for 12 hours.
Yeah. So you don't do a lot of fishing. So guys, today's thing, we're going to do a tournament breakdown, get her thoughts on the whole situation. And then we're also going to be talking about Kevin Van Dam and the recent MLF event that just went down way up in the great state of Michigan. So, you know, let's just get into it here. And please let me know in the comment section down below, how is our audio before we get started? Carter J, what is up? Nice to see you, boss. David Williams, how you doing? And then I really hope you guys really go give a watch to the Joe Love interview. That was really probably one of the bigger interviews I've done this year. It's right up there with the one I did with the Department of Wildlife Resources in Virginia when I got to go down to Richmond. I really enjoyed that conversation. We covered a lot of things. And then since that episode is up now, I can say that in the episode we talked about this, but I'll make an announcement now. The Maryland Department of Wildlife Resources are actually creating a black bass stamp. So now you can actually raise money. You can donate to them to raise money to actually do bass stocking program. It's really cool. It's something that we've been talking about. Yeah, it's been something we've been wanting to talk about. We've been talking about for a long time to get involved with in Maryland and Virginia, some kind of stocking program. And it's a step in the right direction. But you guys aren't here really for that. I'm here to answer your questions. And then we're just going to kind of get into it. Carly, really, I think we're just gonna have this conversation really about what happened and how all this come to pass with Thursday.
Okay, so week before we went fishing, Tom goes, make sure you're off work in time on Thursday to go with me. You're gonna be my co-angler.
So, oh yeah, and I guess this is the part that I need to add. So my regular Cole angler, Cole Curtis, he was out of town. He was, I think he said he was sunbathing in a banana hammock on a beach at Myrtle fishing. I love you, bud. But right. He was out. And so I really wanted to fish. And I thought this would be a fun time to actually get you back out on the boat.
Right. He didn't say, hey, do you want to go fishing with me? He just says, make sure you're off work in time to go fishing. And I said, okay, here we go. Let's do it.
And some context with this is I really wanted her to go fishing last year. And we went to do this. We went down to the Chickahominy River.
And it was a disaster.
With the Shenandoah Valley Bass Masters Association. And it was. We had a huge issue with the boat. We had a wiring issue. This was before I went to New Horizon to get the wiring fixed. The boat wasn't working right. Then we had a major truck.
We were sinking.
Yeah, and then we had a truck problem where the tire exploded.
The front passenger side tire on our dually Ford F-350 exploded while we were going 60 miles an hour down an interstate.
Yeah.
That was terrifying.
That went well.
Yeah. It's fine. It's fine. We were saved by Jared Mounts, Tom's co-host here on Fishing the DMV. And
really appreciate you for that. So, and because of that, you know, and I know in the thumbnails and stuff, I got a little bit of heat from this woman here about like, well, this is technically not my first tournament. It's like, yeah, but the other one, it's like. Right.
But that one we didn't stay for like both days. Yeah. Because the first day we were like, something's wrong with the truck. Like something's going on. So we should probably head back early. Also, the first day we caught nothing.
Well, the boat was sinking too.
The boat was sinking. We were having a lot of problems. We caught nil. So we were just like, let's just go home. Like, just cut our losses. Let's go. And then, of course, on our way home on Sunday, the truck explodes.
So it gets to this event here, and so we get there for the event, and so we're on the Upper Potomac. This tournament was going out of Big Slack, believe it or not, which is one of the main dams on the Upper Potomac River, and it backs up all the way to Williamsport. And I thought this would be a really good event for you because even though the weights are low, so usually, generally speaking, 7 to 8 pounds is a big bag there. And we can get in the whole conservation, ecological side of things where that is so sad that like for a place like this, and I love a comment that you said on the boat. It's like, these fish are so tiny compared to the ones on TV. It's so small. And it's like,
well, we weighed them and I thought for sure, like after what I heard people, oh, Tom's like, oh, this fish is massive. And I'm like, yeah, it's big. It made the rod like bow in half. This is awesome.
Curtis, I promise you're not being replaced, Jed. You're not being replaced. We just have a backup in case you're ever out of town.
You can keep him. Okay. That net job, we're gonna get there.
Yeah, anyway, continue.
Okay, so anyway, with Tom's like, all these fish are massive, the fight is so intense. All right, so we finally get him on the boat, the first one. It's okay. And he weighs it and it's like 2.5 pounds or something, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, I thought like a normal like large fish is like solid like 7-8 pounds or something. And that's just what I expected the scale to say.
Well, there's something about the size too. I mean, if I pull up something that's this big, it's not going to weigh 10 pounds. So there's the mass and the density, but I agree with what you're saying there. The place is not great, but there's a lot of fish. There's a ton of fish. I thought this will be a place that you can actually catch something, and I didn't expect us to do really well. Because it's a hard place to crack. Plus, like, what is the definition of good? Well, when you're at a competition like that, where it's basically all or nothing, these events, guys. Again, if you want to come, I think, people in the comment section, please help me out. Whoever runs this organization too, please get a hold of me so I can promote you guys. It kind of feels like a shady drug deal, like where you'd buy weed in college, because I don't know who to talk to. You just show up at the boat ramp at like 4.
Like, I don't even know if this is still happening.
You look for the right dude and you tap your foot 3 times and he taps his foot 3 times and you give him money. But that's how it works. And it's $20 to enter, not a lot of money. And it's basically, they pay out big fish, I believe, and just first place. And that's it. Fun event, really good. I just wish I knew who put it on and I could promote you guys. Right. So, we show up there. I didn't think, like, no one ever thinks you're going to win, but it's like, you can't even worry about, if I get a top 5, I cash money. It's just more like you go there. It's $20. It's just to have fun.
How many boats would you say there were? Because I'd say like 15.
Yeah, 15.
Like at least
15 to 20.
That's what I would say. Yeah. I felt like 20 stretching it, but honestly, like there were a lot of us just like waiting for takeoff. So it was great.
And then we got maybe Carly should be your new partner. Yes, that would be great. Yes.
Thank you, Jenny.
Carly is the old man queen now at this point. We'll get to that part of the story anyway. So, you get to be part of your first blast off.
Right. That was fun.
And so we get in the boat, turn everything on, and again, there was some kind of weird ghost, I guess, in the boat. She was eating a banana, by the way, so I will say that, because all my electronics,
I haven't had dinner yet.
All of my electronics would not work. None of my electronics would turn on at all. Big motor was fine. Trolling motor was good. Went back there. I checked all the batteries. They said they were full, no issues. Nothing would turn on. But we still had the big engine. We still had the trolling motor. It's like, all right, cool. We're
Except while we're piddling around waiting for takeoff, the big engine starts screaming at us with that loud beeping noise, and we had to turn the engine off twice. I'm like, Thomas, I thought your boat was fine. It was functioning fine when you went out with your co-angler. And he's like, yeah, it's just you. So I'm feeling real confident, real great.
I love how your comment in that day was really like, I thought everything was working. And it's like, okay, that really just puts salt into it. I thought the thing that you enjoy more than everything was working for you. It's like, no, I guess no. This, like most of my dreams, are broken.
I also said, we'll get you a new boat. Don't worry, honey.
Yeah, but okay, unless you're selling your feet on like one of those websites, you ain't getting a new boat anytime.
I'm working on it. Okay.
But anyway, it was just, it had a clog. We fixed that. No problem. We blast off. We go to our first spot. And then I gave you this bait here, and this is the fun part of the story here that you can start getting into when we get to our first spot. And then I put a rod in your hand, and this was an issue on my fault.
This is what it looked like first. All right, so
I think it was this one. Oh, you're right. Maybe it was that one too.
No, it looked like this one first. This was the second one because I lost this.
Do you want to hold it up to the camera to show everybody?
Okay, so what we have here, it's a Ned rig.
Hold it up hold it to the camera so all the people that would like to buy it could see it. There you go.
Okay.
Well, hold it for a little bit longer. Cole needs to see it.
I'm gonna hold my hand
Okay.
You do. There you go. Okay, so this is a Ned rig. And prior to us departing on Thursday, Thomas actually went to Dick's Sporting Goods and purchased me a brand new rod. And said, "Here you go, honey. This is gonna be your rod for the day." So I'm feeling, real taken care of, set. And then he basically tells me how to cast it, what to do with it, let it chill around on the bottom, and then pop it up every once in a while and keep the rod tip up and all of that jazz. So I'm doing that. All right, first cast, I kind of get stuck on something. So he has to get it unstuck for me, right? So then he casts it out for me because he usually, if he gets it unstuck, he just casts it for me and hands me back the rod. All right, so then I'm just doing my little thingy, gets stuck again. But for like, I just don't quite understand yet, like the feeling between like a fish like taking it and then me getting it stuck. So I'm just like, well, I might as well set it. Snap! The rod breaks in half. On the second cast, it just breaks right in half. And I'm thinking, this is really great. Like, the electronics weren't working, the engine was screaming, and I broke my brand new rod. Like, he's never gonna invite me back on the boat ever again. This is the end.
To be fair, it was a $15 rod from Dick's Sporting Goods that was 50% off.
He didn't tell me that.
Well, and we won like gift cards at a gaming competition, so we had money available to do. So it was like I had gift cards I had to burn. I saw that there was some discounts on fishing stuff, so I'm gonna say like, let's go see if we get a cheapo for her, and we did. And we were able to. And honestly, that was the funniest part, was the fact that I got her a cheap rod knowing like there's a 50% chance she's going to break some shit. And
literally
I have
faulty rod because
it's not a faulty rod. You broke the damn thing.
I'm not that strong.
Bullshit. You handle an 800-pound animal. You ride horses.
I'm not that strong. I didn't.
Within 6 casts, you snap the rod. Like
that's the point. Is that something's wrong with the rod? Okay.
So clearly, the person that works out like
that's why it was on sale for $15.
Okay, blame China. To continue with the story, we're off to a great start now.
All right. So anyway, and he just starts reeling them in, but they're like this big. And for those of you who are only listening to this podcast, it's about 3 inches. So, and I'm like, oh, so cute. Good job, babe.
So she's really not helping at all on an emotional level or a physical level or a catching level. She's just breaking shit, eating stuff, and getting snagged. And this is also a fault if you guys have kids at home or a wife or both.
Rude.
A Ned rig or a small jig is probably not the best thing to actually start them with. I made the mistake. I had an idea that these baits that I was specifically throwing were actually very hot. It was a good technique at the time, but there's a lot that goes into fishing this thing. It takes really good sensitivity in the rod and being able to actually feel the bite. What we were throwing, I think this is a Alltech tungsten head. I got these at Jake's Bait and Tackle. You can shop there online, and you can buy them pretty much anywhere. But what I really like about this is you can get them in 1/8 ounce, and you get, I think it's like 32 seconds of an ounce, something like that. A really light style head.
32 seconds.
32ths of an ounce. I'm going to link it in the episode description because I got shit on for the jig episode where it's like, that's 5/16, not 5/6. It's like, all right, you know what? Google it. It's right there. Anyway, going with this micro Ned head and a micro Tiny 2 really was the key for this. But to do that, you needed a super light head to throw this bait, and you needed a rod to match it. And that was going with a medium light rod with an extra fast tip. And then we're going with between 5-pound test and 8-pound test Sunline fluorocarbon leader. That was to be able to feel this thing. That's a very, very specific technique. And then I handed that to her being like, this is going to work out lovely doing this. And that really was my fault, being in the boat thinking like, okay, maybe giving this to her when the weather conditions weren't really good.
It was really windy out.
It was when we got to our first spot, the wind was blowing the opposite direction of the river. Mm-hmm. And so what that creates is it creates 2 different types of current. You have the wind current that's on the surface level. It only goes down probably about a foot. Mm-hmm. And that's going to blow the boat, the line. It's going to rehab it on the bait. And then you have a little bit of current from just the regular river system going the opposite direction.
Right.
And so it really makes feeling the bait pretty difficult. And so I really do blame myself for your early issues. And so we lost probably about $100 worth of jig tackle by her holding the rod straight up. And instead of feeling it, just dragging it on the bottom until it got snagged. So that worked out really well. Yes, 30 seconds. Thank you. That word right there. You never bring a banana on a boat. Rule number 1. Started all your padlock. Yeah, I know.
Thanks, Brittany. Yeah. I didn't know that. I was hungry.
You could have asked me. I just see you deep throating the banana while the engine went and started. Like, all right, this is gonna actually start real well.
Is that a real thing?
Yeah, it is. Why do you think she brought it up?
I don't know.
It's a thing.
I did not know.
Oh my God. Or it could just be you. It could be one of those things too.
David says
hey, Thomas, can you turn the audio up just a bit for the hearing channels? Absolutely. That's again, no problem there. Boom. We are now up a lot higher.
How's that?
Yeah. Hopefully that's a little bit better for everybody. So anyway, we get that situated. And then this is what really about the story that I think is really fascinating is the first hour. And really, this event really is from like 5, 6, 7, and 8. So you're talking about maybe 3 hours, right? 3 to 4 hours to actually fish. Blast off was at
3
5.
Hours.
Yeah, it's 3 hours. Well, the first hour. Sorry, the comment section here, guys, is just very like
blowing up. I love it.
Yes, it's a thing.
All right, bananas. Now I know.
Yeah. Now you know.
My bad.
So anyway, to continue. So the first hour of the event really is me being so patient not to commit a homicide, and then also babysitting you, trying to keep patient and
he was
teach
so
you.
good. He was so patient. He never rolled his eyes or like huffed once. Not when I broke the rod, not when I lost his bait. It was so good.
I did
really good.
I did teach children for like 18 years of my life. So I do have the built-in patience, but I say this for a point here.
That's a difference between your children and your wife.
But but it's still kind of the same too, where it talks about patience in general, patience with kids, patience with your wife in all these situations. And I see this with a lot of men and adults where they put themselves in situations and your vibe will create a positive experience or a negative experience. So if you're going to go out there and you're going to go teach a kid to fish or your wife or both, put them in a situation where they're going to have success, put them in a situation where they're going to have a positive outcome with that. Mm-hmm. The conditions were not perfect for a beginner at the beginning of the day. And so I do regret her starting with this technique off. So then when we went to, she was still fiddling around with that. And I wanted to get something to put something in her hand that was a little bit more efficient for a regular angler to use. And you could put that up right now.
Also, he called this an active bait. He says, you're moving that bait around too much. You clearly want something to like do while you're fishing. So we went to, wrong way. Hold on. There you go. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. That's called the jerk bait, ladies and gentlemen.
That is a jerk bait. Yeah.
And he taught me how to use that. And took me about 20 minutes, but I think I eventually got the hang of it. I actually got really good at casting.
What do you call a person that doesn't have rhythm?
What do you mean, a person that doesn't have rhythm?
Because for this bait, you jerk it in the water.
Well, I had to
and
figure
watching
it out.
you jerk it is just like jerking. You're like,
Okay, that
at first.
Again, I'm not
and
strong.
eventually, as she breaks a rod and loses a lot of tackle, you're not strong. Yeah. Don't you hop off a horse at a gallop and make it turn?
Yeah.
And you're not strong enough to like move a bait in the water.
Look at these bruises.
Oh my God. That's not from me getting mad at her for breaking my rod, by the way. That's from the horse.
That's from horses.
just in case the FBI is listening. So I put that in her hand. A lot better results. You started to catch a couple of dinks. You saw one chase the bait up, remember?
Yeah. And that's when I started to feel really confident. I was like, oh, okay, this bait's going to be the winner for me. Like this is actually, because I felt absolutely nothing on these little ringy dingers.
I know, except logs and rocks and shit.
Except for logs and rocks and tires and whatever's down there. Yes. So for the jerk bait, I brought in just a teeny tiny little one at one point, like 4 or 5 inches, and then another one at like 11 and a half inches. And then it's getting later in the day. Oh, we forgot about the fish you caught.
Oh, I know. We're going to get there. I just want to finish that sentence off first while I get this up here.
Well, we didn't switch baits until it was like we were done in like 40-ish minutes.
That is a private comment in the private chat that we will talk about later. Anyway, so I think this is the best time that we can actually. Oh, we got a couple of comments here while we get back into the story of Carly's first event. Good man, great. What's up?
That clown color. Looks like a clown,
yeah,
honestly.
So
I'll hold it up again.
That right there, I'm going to put the link in the episode description to this. It is a chrome clown color. It's a gold. Can I see it real quick? Sure. That's gold, right? That's a little bit of gold. I think
silver.
It's a silver gold tint. Because when you
and yellow.
Really? It's almost like that dress. To me, it looks like on the side it has a little bit of gold to it.
It's like yellow on the top and silver in the middle.
It's a clown chrome. It's a clown chrome color. When you're fishing with anybody and you want to get bit when you're dealing with spotted bass or smallmouth, I'm saying like you just want to get bit and it's a person that maybe doesn't fish a lot, go with the hottest color jerkbait you possibly can. Megabass, Jennifer, that is a great guess. This is not. I'm sorry. Okay, Jenny, I'm sorry.
Meyer.
I'm also blind. Jenny, this is actually a Strike King. This is the Strike King, a chrome clown color. I think Megabass is a great bait. I bought so many Strike King jerk baits when I was in college, and I was what they call poor, and I couldn't afford a $22 Megabass. And I really thought financially, I could buy 2 or 3 Strike King jerk baits on Black Friday or Memorial Day sale from Tackle Warehouse back in the day versus one Megabass. Now, granted, Megabass is still a better bait, but when I saw a deal, that's what I just did. So anyway, she started out with that. And then when it comes to the tournament itself, the first hour after that got done with, I actually tried to settle down. I started to think really more about fishing. And so we were going along this main chute of the river, and I was throwing my little jig out there, and all of a sudden I pull back on one. I catch one. It's about 13 inches. This was the smallest one, I think, of the day. Actually, was the first one we caught.
No.
Yeah, it wasn't the biggest one. That one we're gonna get to. So, because it was I knew
it was the medium-sized one.
It was the no, because
the smallest one you caught second.
Smallest one I caught was first. I know that because we didn't make a big deal about it.
Fine.
Because we thought.
Agree to disagree.
Okay, agree to disagree. So agree to disagree on the first fish, but it was a fish and was caught. It was put in the live well.
It was very pretty.
Because we were talking about maybe not even weighing it in because we only have one. There's no big deal. Because who cares?
Okay.
And then what happens after the first one we catch, we were going down this stretch, and I figured out something a little sneaky looking at my forward-facing sonar, my 360.
That started working.
And it did. Yep, that's a good point of the story. Is as soon as it laid down, some do like it. What is going on here in the chat? Some do like them as much. Oh, I was going to say Western Clown. All right. Thank you, Jake's Bait and Tackle. So anyway.
Now that he knows who you are.
I'm going to take a little sip of my beverage here.
Sorry.
So anyway, it's a main flat that usually all the fishing was on. It's just a little bit shallower part of the river. And what I was figuring out is looking at optics and stuff is these fish were actually in the deeper channel, basically. And so we just moved out about 6 or 7 feet off the spot. And I was making casts in the deeper part while you were working the jerk bait over the flat, shallower part.
Yeah.
And the flat was probably between like 4 to 3 feet deep, something like that. So, and I was fishing between 8 to 6 feet, like roughly. And again, like I was throwing, my setup with this thing was a medium light rod, and I had 12-pound Sunline braid, and I took that to 5-pound test fluorocarbon leader. And I was casting that thing out there, and I was just barely just dragging it on the bottom. The second one we catch is a little bit better, from my understanding, because that was one where you got the net. We thought it was a walleye or something like that. We thought it was something.
Oh my
crazy.
gosh, this is the first time I ever netted a fish.
Yeah,
ever.
And this is the first one you netted. Remember, because that's why the first one was the smallest.
I know. I was so excited
because we didn't net the first one. I just boat flipped it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, it's okay. You're welcome. That's why I remember things. So that one we got in, and that one was a really good one. That one was bigger than the one I caught with Cole last week. That one was really, really nice. Mm-hmm. And so I actually have that one here. If you want to keep talking, talk about your net job.
No, I feel as though I did pretty well with it. But I also have a question for our viewers, because you didn't know the answer to this. If I were to net said fish, but also fall out of the boat while doing it, would that still be legal? And can we keep the fish? Or at that point, do we have to toss the fish back because I fell into the water to get it?
I'm pretty sure if a woman falls over the side of the boat, they would be okay with that. I think they would not think that.
I don't think they care what the sex is.
True. That is also true. But I feel like if two guys, Carl and Randy said, like, I jumped out and I caught a fish. It's like, how did you cheat? What'd you do?
Yeah, but I was willing to go into the water for it.
But if you tripped and fell over, and then
I can do that.
And then we have Connor.
Lonnie Connor says it's legal. I can do that. So now you know.
Now I know
that I will go in the water for a fish.
You will go in the water for a fish. I cannot believe where the heck. Oh, there it is. Cool. I'm just gonna send this to myself. That way I can share this on screen.
Okay, that's a really small fish.
Yeah, I know, but that was anyway. We'll talk about that fish because that fish is important.
I'm not proud of that one.
No, you should be because it's important in the story. It's a very important fish in the story.
Okay. Anyway, so I felt as though I was doing great at the netting, and Tommy, the first one that he caught, he was like, "Oh, this is a big one," and he took forever to bring it even close to the boat. We couldn't even see it for a while, and eventually we get it, and then we like net it, and then we put it in the boat, and we're super duper excited. We're like, "All right, we've got like 2 hours left. We're good to go. We're rocking and rolling now," because he had already like caught like 3 or 4 other fish, but they were too small to keep, and that one was the one that was like 2 pounds something, right?
So this is what's interesting about I think formulating a pattern, having execution, and just remembering how things work out. Right. Is earlier, like 20 minutes earlier in the day, I decide to like we're gonna set up a drift on the deeper section in this area, and we start the drift all the way down, and we catch one immediately. We had that thought process. It's funny because you told me after the fact something very interesting, but I'll say my part first, and you can chime in with this. Now I'm like, okay, I'm going to reset the drift. I'm like, set everything down. We're going to reset the drift, and we're going to set right back up to where we were. And so I set right back up, and that's interesting because you were thinking, if I'm correct, it's like, oh, we're leaving, but we just caught one.
Yeah.
And so I just thought that was interesting. Like you didn't even say that at the moment. It was just thinking, like, oh, we should stay in the area, which is exactly what I was going to do. It was like, okay, these fish are off deeper. Yeah. What we're going to do is we're going to reset the drift, but I'm going to go off a little bit more because when we initially started the drift, I was a little bit shallower. I said, like, let's just start immediately deeper. I put the engine down, get up on the front desk. It was the first cast. I let that thing, I just whipped that thing out there as deep as I could. I saw on my my 360, I think it was a little bit a bigger boulder or something like that in about 6.5 feet of water. I pull it over there and it goes solid. I pull back on it, and I swear to God, I thought I had a flathead or a walleye. This was the biggest one. Yeah, because this is the one that had all the grass in the line too. Yeah. And
that's right. I had to like pull the grass off the line, hanging off the side of the boat. Yeah.
For the Upper Potomac,
and you caught it with this, right?
Yeah. For the Upper Potomac,
the Ned rig.
This thing is it's freaking, it's a big one. It's a really good one. I think this is the one that went like almost 2 pounds, 2 pounds something.
2 pounds, like 2.5, I think it was.
Yeah, 2.5. And really the key to success really was something that I learned on one of my interviews recently was don't pull so hard on those smallmouth. Let the drag do its work. And so I was using my.
We went back and forth beside the boat like 2 different times. Like went from one side to the other side, like 2 different times. You're like, okay, if that's where you want to go. And I just kept chasing him with the net.
I never saw this fish until it was basically in the net. I never saw this fish. Yeah. It was dogging the whole time. I had the drag set perfectly. And this is something else I really suggest to all my listeners that are just starting out. Always have your drag set just a little bit tighter when you set the hook, and then once you hook the fish, you can always dial it back some. That's usually what I do. So I'll have it set to where I want it to where I know I can set the hook and a little bit of line will come out. And then if I have to, I'll just dial it back just a little bit more, especially in this part of the river where there's nothing around. He could just dig for all he wants. And especially with these baits here, with these little tiny hooks, when I got in there, you're not probably going to lose them by them jumping and shaking, but they can pull off. So loosen that drag up and just let him go and let him go. And so, yeah, I fought him, but I'm telling you, that works so much better than if you try to haul on those fish with that lighter stuff. Just let them wear themselves out and you can bring them to the boat and they won't jump very much. We get this thing close to the boat and it's under the boat the whole time, pretty much. Yeah. And there's grass wrapped around the line. I was worried about that. This is really her second net job in her whole life. I know. Her netting the thing. Whole life. That's so and this thing comes up to the surface and it's funny because like we're saying it's a big one. It's not a 4 or 5 pound smallmouth. It's not a legit. I've caught 4 and 5 pound smallmouth when I went up north, but I just meant like to this point is like, so this wasn't like, oh, this is like my PB or a monster, but for this place, it's like, oh my God, this is massive.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is how this changes in the conversation because we put him in the net and there's a mood change and atmosphere change because in tournaments at this place, it only takes 6, 7, 8 pounds to win. Yeah. And I've been telling you that even before we launched the boat. It doesn't take a lot to win some money here. Right. And then all of a sudden we catch that one. It's like,
They're like, oh my God.
Holy
if
shit.
If we just get one more of these,
we could actually do something here.
We could place.
And I was like, if we just catch a limit, we'll definitely. I thought like if we caught 5, we win, period.
Right.
And if we catch a 4th, we have a shot.
This size?
Yeah, we have a shot because this one is a good one. Yeah. But we're losing light now. So again, first hour was basically an educational teaching moment would be the PC way of saying it. Babysitting would be another way.
Rude.
An hour of fishing, or about an hour and some change of fishing. Yeah. We're getting up on the clock here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, let's rerun this area. But this was a really cool bait change. What did I tie on your line?
And then afterwards, okay, we probably had 45 minutes left of like actual fish time. And then Tom's like, I'm going to give you the spy bait. Straight. All right, there you go. So that's what he tied on.
Tell me about that
to my rod. Well, I really liked this bait. It fit my personality.
What does that mean? Fit my personality.
It meant that I just got to cast it and reel it, baby. Cast it and reel it, and that's all I had to do. And as long as I had it going at a certain speed, I was like, this is working for me. And Tommy kept asking me, can you feel the bait? Can you feel the bait? I didn't know what that meant when I was throwing this sucker. I was like, I feel catching a lot of things down at the bottom. Lots of grass. Yes. So then when I finally ended up throwing the spy bait, I knew exactly what he meant when he said, can you feel the bait? Oh, hold on, take the net right off. There you go. Can you feel the bait? And then I was like, yeah, I can actually feel it now. I actually felt a couple little like nibbles and bites. And then I was like, oh, I got to slow it down a little bit so the fish can actually catch it. And then I kept whipping it. And eventually I started bringing them in. And the first one I brought in, it was very, very exciting. And that one was 11.5 inches. So half an inch too short to keep in the boat. And that's when the fire was burning.
Not to cut you off, but like that was what's interesting is like this was your first fish that you caught landed on this bait.
Yes.
And that's why I said like this is important pictures because your mindset changed after this fish.
Yeah.
You understood the bite.
Yeah.
You understood how to make it work.
I knew it felt like.
Your intensity really changed after you caught this fish.
Yeah.
Yourself.
Yeah.
And I remember you holding the reel and you're just like, I think I got one. And you just cranking on that thing like a wild person. It's like you can fight the fish if you want. You don't have to drown him.
He had to talk me through that because I usually just like freeze in terror, but apparently you're supposed to keep reeling.
Yeah, freezing in terror is not the best thing while fishing. And this was such a unique thing. Let's go back just from really the strategy at that point. As it got darker out, got closer to 8 o'clock, actually this bite was dying. I caught probably 4 more fish.
But they were all way too
But
small.
they were all like 10 inches.
No,
I had one pull off that felt pretty good, but I didn't get a good hook in him. Or I snagged something. It could have been that, but I really felt like it moved. Anyway, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, my size was leaving, but your size was picking up where you caught a couple in a row they
were so close.
They were so close.
It was like 1/4 of an inch to 12 inches. And I was like, come on, catch me a keeper. Like, that's all I was praying for. I was like, I just want to keep her. And to this point, we have 3 fish in the live well that we get to take for weigh-in. And I'm thinking if we catch a keeper, Tom's going to let us get to stay for weigh-in. And then we might actually place. And who the heck knows? So eventually, so
anyway, but then this was a cool one though, was and this kind of gets into you caught one short. She caught one and she hooked this thing and it jumps immediately. And you yelled, I got one.
Yeah.
And it jumps immediately. And this sucker is long and anorexic. And I really thought when it jumps, like that thing should keep. That really should keep. And so this is the first one I think I really netted. No, this is the second one I netted for you at this point because I netted your first one.
He's a chunky monkey, but he just wasn't quite long.
And he was like, what, 11 and like 3/4, like
that's the one that was a quarter.
Yeah, short. So barely close to being 12 inches. Yeah. And that was like your 3rd or 4th one you caught.
I know.
And then I had an omen, and I told her this before, and it's like, if we're gonna do well in this, you're gonna catch a key fish. And you're like, you just jinked it. I believe in Murphy's Law.
Literally, he's like, well, if we do well tonight, you're gonna catch a fish. You're gonna catch a fish, and you're gonna get the biggest one in the boat. And I was like, you can't say that kind of stuff out loud. You can think it, but you can't say it out loud. Otherwise, you just jinxed it, and it's not gonna happen. So I knocked on some wood, and then I caught the biggest fish. fish. But
spoilers. But anyway,
so while I'm reeling in this one that we think is actually large enough to keep, Thomas shows me that he needs some education when it comes to netting.
Oh.
Because
my net game was not good. I got
so mad at him. I was about to just push him off the boat. He straight up is stabbing the water with the net. As I'm like reeling the fish in, I'm like, oh, I gotta be all gentle with it. Okay, like steer it in. Tommy just goes, stab, right in the water. I'm like, what the heck are you doing? Because now the fish is just shooting down underneath the boat to get away from the net, trying to grab it. Just keep the net in the water and then just scoop it. But he was so excited and he thought this was a keeper for sure that he just thought if he just stabbed it like a murderer, he was gonna get it. Like, he acted like he never netted a fish before. Anyway, Curtis Cole, teach him the next time you go out. Maybe you guys have a conversation.
To be fair, my other issue was the first fish that she didn't bring up in the story that we caught on the spyway, the one I just showed you the picture of. I brought him in because he was on the outside of the net. Because when I had it in the water gently, like cradling a baby, she missed the net. And the treble hook got
my fault.
Yeah, the net. And so I had to lift you both in the water.
Us both.
The fish. And so I did a horrific job on this, but my mindset going into it is like, well, if I leave it in the water and that's not in the right position with you, if we lose a fish because he gets hooked on the outside of the net and throws the bait, that's just going to be miserable. And so I thought if I stabbed it, that'd be better.
Yeah, he was really worried about this getting caught.
Because it already happened before, but it was on a dinky. And I thought, I could imagine she catches a 6-pound smallmouth and it gets hawked on the outside of the net and it's her best one ever. And it just like says bye and throws. And I'm really screwed. And we're losing light. But
so that was the first experience with me watching Thomas net. And
so you saw the good and the bad. You saw me play fish perfectly. But then
I had a word with him and I said, maybe get better at this. So he's like, I did nothing wrong. I'm like, okay, here we go. So then after that fish, literally, we have how many minutes until
we were running out of time? We were running.
It was starting to get dark. People were passing us. They were on their way to weigh in. Like they were done for the night. And we're still sitting at the same spot we've been at all night long. And Tom's just like, one more cast, of course, like he does. And eventually I did that one more cast. And literally we both said, okay, for real, this is the last cast because we've got to head back. So I cast it out there. I get it. And I'm like, Tom, I got one. And I'm so serious. Like I'm feeling it in my knees and I could feel the weight.
In my knees?
Literally, like my knees are shaking. And I'm like, okay, this is it. This is for real. And like my chest is starting to like contract and get tight. Like I'm having anxiety because straight up I knew that if we got this in the boat, we could win after everything Tommy's told me. I mean, if he wasn't lying to me, like we could actually win this thing. So I'm reeling in. Finally, like it jumps up out of the water and splashes in. And I just stop reeling for a second. Tom goes, what are you doing? And I'm like, okay. And then I keep reeling again.
You just like had an outer body experience. You just stopped to watch the thing like it's shamming at the zoo. Like, it's pretty.
I was convinced as soon as it jumped out, it was going to shake itself free and we were done.
There's a lot in that whole sequence.
So then I kept going. It went to one side of the boat. It went to the other side of the boat. Thomas is stabbing the water with the net before we even see the fish. And eventually I just like, stop stabbing the water. And then finally, like, I think he pretty much jabbed at it 3 separate times.
It kept going down.
Missed it every single time. And finally I got up a little bit high enough. And then he was able to like flop it in halfway. And then we scooped it in and then pulled it into the boat. He picks it up and he goes, okay, this will do it, and takes the bait off pretty much, throws it in a live well, and we just start packing. We're like, let's go, because we had to like haul ass back.
It turned out to be the second biggest fish, and I think it just was almost the biggest by like a couple ounces. Like it was close, but we weighed both of them, and neither one got big fish on the day.
No, we were 2 ounces.
Yeah, but the fact is, when I saw that one, it was like, holy shit, like that might have done it. And then I just more context with like the net stuff and just in general, like the fighting also, there's a lot of current. And so the reason these fish also are probably fighting a little bit better too, is like there is current, is a river system. It's not just like a pond. And this is something that I learned afterwards. if you're fighting a fish in massive current, you hold your net in there, it's going to blow the netting down current of it.
Yeah.
No shit, right?
Yeah.
So if the fish is down current and you're pulling it up, it's going to hit the mesh netting. Apparently what you do, I know this after the fact, is you hold the netting too and the net. So that way you can stick it in the water and the netting doesn't blow down past the hole. So that way the trouble's getting that. So I'm glad I know that now. I really wish I knew it back then. But we got that thing in the boat and it was, I remember that these weird moments. Like when I caught the biggest one of the day, there's that moment of like, we have a chance.
Yeah.
When you hooked that one, it was dead quiet in the boat. Like,
oh my gosh, I almost passed out. Yeah. Literally, once we got in the boat, like Thomas got in the net, I just like dropped I dropped the fishing rod and I just threw my fist in the air and I was like, yes! And then this boat goes by with these two older gentlemen and they both give me a thumbs up and they go, nice! And I'm
unhooking the fish. I'm doing the tackle. I'm doing everything in the boat and she's getting autographs and this shit from everyone around her.
Me catch a fish.
Oh my God.
It's fantastic.
Well, the story isn't in there though either, does it?
No, it doesn't. Because then we haul ass back and then we put the truck, or I'm sorry, you get in the truck, I stay in the boat, we put the boat on the trailer, then I get in the truck and then I drive the boat out of the water and then we park and we see a bunch of people walk past with their bags. And it looked like a bunch of people actually did well for the night.
Yeah, we thought a bunch of people did well for the night. We were guessing the bags and stuff. And then I carry the bag over to the weigh-in with you. We weigh it, and then everyone was like, "I think you just did this." So this is what's fun about that at this point, because the story keeps going here, and there's a part of the story that we need to circle back to. She was the rock star because I left to like take care of the boat, the car, all that stuff.
I just hung around
and then you
claimed what was mine.
80 shit. You have like 80-year-old men all around you, like it's like a Kiss concert. Just
giving me high five, shaking my hand.
Did they ask you for your number or to be your partner?
My pink jersey. No, nobody did. Oh my gosh, we forgot to say what happened at the beginning.
That's what I was gonna say. We're gonna bring that up too.
I'll bring that up now. Forgot about that. So right before we end up, right?
That's confidence.
It's all fake. So right before we end up putting the boat in the water, Thomas just paid for our entries, right? And then we drive to the boat ramp, and after he paid the guy cash, the guy comes running up to the boat and he's like, "Hey, you got a kid in the truck with you, right?" Meanwhile, I'm sitting in the front seat, and the closer he gets, the more you can see like his face is like, "Oh, this is an adult woman, not a child." And he goes, "I thought for sure you guys had a kid in the boat." Tom goes, "Nope, no children here." And I was like, "Hi." And he's like, "I'm so sorry." And he turns around and walks away. And I'm like, "Thomas, he thought I was your daughter."
Oh, guys, love gals that can fish. This is factually.
Jenny would know.
And then so that was kind of your tournament in a nutshell. And then how much did you win with?
How much did I win with? Oh, I don't know.
How much weight? It was like 7 pounds, 8 ounces.
I don't know. You can ask me how much cash I got. I know that.
So anyway, that was a pretty good bag. I was actually pretty shocked that we did as well as we did there. It's a really hard place to fish. I think the really important thing there is really to downsize. I've always had more success when you downsize to even smaller stuff. And this is really good comparison to your fish there. And then what's so funny about this picture is how we're holding each other's fish. So like this was mine. Yeah. And then this was yours.
That was mine.
And I think so where they were holding each other's fish, but like and I don't think this picture does it just has how big yours was.
No,
it was big, especially when it was jumping.
You were standing behind me too, obviously. Look how far back you were from behind me. Like
ignore my hair, but yeah. But that was I was really you should be really proud of yourself. And
I had a lot of fun. I want to do it again.
Well, yeah, but you think you're gonna win every single time. Everyone asks me about this stuff, and I get a lot of hate mail over it about the spy bait and the jerk bait. I throw both of them. What I found out really, this is easy. This is what you do. If you throw this and you don't get bit, you throw this. That's our TED Talk. If you don't catch them on this, you go to this. It's basically that. A spy bait is just almost a finessier version of the jerk bait. Yeah. I really like the chartreuse color one for smallmouth. And what I did with her is I set up I think it was same, those 12-pound braid, but I set up what was that mono? I used 12-pound monofilament leader. And the reason I used mono, a 12-pound monoliter is it helps float this thing a little bit higher in the water column, because we were fishing relatively shallow water. Again, you were like in 4 to 3 feet of water. And I was trying to keep this thing up because I gave my wife treble hooks. So I didn't want to actually lose this bait. And I didn't want to tell her, God love her soul, that this thing was the most expensive thing that we had in the boat at the time. What did Jenny say? Don't be a hater. I mean, I'm only watching the tonight because of Carly. I know. I got, hey, listen, right now I got 3% female demographic thanks to her. So I'm going to milk that for all it's worth. Spy bait is a really good pick. And when we talk about the Ned rig and downsizing, like, so this was a regular size Ned rig. And this was the size that I was going to get the bigger bites. It was really just going to that smaller size that made it work. And I spent 4 weeks figuring out the right size. I went from a medium heavy rod.
At the specific body of water is what you're talking about?
All the times I kept practicing. So I started out with an ultralight, because that's what I use in my creek fishing. Is I use this kind of setup here. I cut it down a little bit more. And I use my ultralight BFS setup. And I also use an ultralight spinning rod. I have good success in creeks, no issues. But when I was here and I was making longer casts, deeper water, I could not get a hook in them. So then I immediately went from an ultralight to a medium, I think it was like a mid-power action drop shot rod. It's the Shimano one. I don't know all the numbers because it's like 50 numbers to explain every Shimano model, but it's a Shimano drop shot rod. I'll put that in the description. But that didn't work at all either. Then I finally went to a medium light rod, and that was the deal, where I had enough backbone to set the hook on them, but it was light enough in the tip with that medium light action. I could cast it out there and feel this super duper light thing. The other bait that I had, but it's actually in the boat right now, is a little bucktail jig. That brown one. It was really, really a really good bait. But I just never caught a keeper on it, so I really don't think I could show you. Oh, and this one.
The Panther.
And this right here is the Panther Martin. This one caught a bunch of little ones too. Gold blade, black finish. Really good for smallmouth, and it's fantastic in those situations where you're just trying to get bit and you're calling through dinks. So, and I'm showing you, I didn't catch a keeper on this one or the jerk bait, but again, I would suggest trying to go with that Panther Martin or jerk bait still, because you still could have success with it, right? Yeah. And that was your first tournament in a nutshell.
Yeah.
So really, to kind of finish up the topic for today, we're going to go to the Kevin Van Dam stuff. I think this is quite fascinating. I kind of want to get into it here. Carly, what do you know about Kevin Van Dam?
I recognize the name. I would have thought that he was a brand of baits.
He is a brand of baits. You're right. They've made many baits about him.
I do a couple of videos for Jake's Bait and Tackle every week, and I've heard the name in passing.
Oh, actually, this is a good point. So, as you guys know, I'm actually on Fishing DMV is on Instagram. It's on TikTok. It's on every single platform.
Yeah.
I am editing hour to 2 hour long pieces of content 3 times a week and setting up interviews and doing interviews. And so I don't have time to do every single platform. So she handles my TikTok and a lot of my Instagram, but then she also handles Jake's Bait and Tackle's Facebook,
Shorts,
their Instagram, their OnlyFans, all that stuff. Yeah. All that short form content as well. So, she also really helps with the short form content, because I just don't have enough time to do every single piece on all those media platforms.
It is my specialty.
It is her specialty. So you are talking from a place of like, you've seen a lot of baits, is my point.
Oh, yeah.
Saying that. Kevin Van Dam. So he's had over 26 wins. He's had over 125 top 10s, multiple Angler of the Years, 8, over $7 million in winnings. And this is where I think this is
$7 million?
$7 million. And I think this is fun because we got into a heated little argument about this beforehand. So big tournament happened yesterday up in Michigan. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Van Dam's last tournament. Media is all big about it. It's his last tournament he's going to be fishing. He was fishing this whole year. Everyone knew this year was his last year. And this is the last tournament of his last year. And going into it during the event, he was doing very well. And as you can tell right here, Matt Beckard won this event. And he also, I believe, won Angler of the Year. Comment section, let me know if that's correct.
Who is he?
Matt Beckard. He's an angler.
How long has he been fishing?
I don't know his whole Wikipedia page, but the point for the conversation is,
does everybody know Matt Becker? Like everyone knows Kevin Van Dam?
No.
Okay.
So Matt had 40 pounds. Kevin Van Dam ended up with 35. So here's the thing that I think. In this situation, if I was Matt, this is a hot take, but this is me personally, I wouldn't have gone super hard the last 2 days. I would have tried to let Kevin Van Dam win. And what I mean by that is this. I'm not saying I throw the towel. I just dial it back a little bit. And the reason I say that is I don't think people are going to go away from this event if I was him thinking like, ooh, I just won this event. The bigger story is not that I won stop 7 on the MLF. The bigger story is this is Kevin Van Dam's last tournament. So already I'm going to kind of get lost in the wash here. And if Kevin Van Dam has a chance to win his last tournament ever, that's a hell of a story. And I don't know. I just always think like if you were racing in NASCAR and a legend was about to win it, and then you just come out of nowhere and just swat it out of his hands, people aren't necessarily going to remember you in the books as the guy that won that thing. It's still the story, the narrative is going to be, well, it was his last event. And so to me, I would have dialed back a little bit, I think, especially in Major League Fishing where you get to see all the weights. You get to see what's happening.
Yeah, however, like Matt Becker's working just as hard as Kevin Van Dam.
Mm-hmm.
He's just supposed to like give up his first place.
No, I'm not.
Somebody's retiring that's already won $7 million.
I'm not saying give up his first place. I'm just saying you don't go as hard in the paint.
How do you know he didn't?
That's true. That's true. I don't know. That's why we have these conversations.
Yeah.
Because if we just like, how do we know he did? It's like, all right, problem solved, done. We're done for that, guys.
Right.
We're not going to argue about it. So the same thing is what you're saying is you would, if you were Matt Beckard, you would just try to just go for it. Don't matter.
I think it would if I'd never won before and I was competing just like everybody else was, especially if I like came out of the woodwork and was like from nobody. At the end of the day, like I'm also competing and putting all of my time, energy, and money into this competition. I'm not just going to hand it to somebody who's about to retire.
Yeah, I really way more media on Kevin Van Dam than Beckard. His win was very little media. His win was drowned out by Kevin Van Dam.
But he still gets the winnings.
He still gets the winnings, but
he still gets the sponsorships. He still gets whatever you win at the end of the day, which maybe he needs that to continue.
You know, So let me know in the chat if you guys have played baseball. This is the best analogy I can do because it comes close to home.
Okay.
Do you know what a perfect game is?
No.
Perfect game happens where if a pitcher goes out there and 27 outs is what's in the game.
Outs? Oh, outs. I thought you said ounces.
You know, when I was dating, I was teaching baseball and I played it. So I hope you know anything.
27 ounces.
Outs in a game.
I understand now.
Okay. What's 3 times 9? 27. 27 ounce. Okay. So she's spot on. Everyone's like with Carly here. Oh my God. Okay. Everyone's with Carly.
Yes!
Okay, let me finish my point here. So if you are in baseball and you're a pitcher and you pitch a perfect game, that means you had 27 outs in a row. No one got to first base. No one did. The thing that sucked always in baseball, and we always talked about this in the locker room, is if you had to be the dude to go up there and you were the last out, what would you do?
Cry.
So no, like sometimes people say like you try to bunt, you try to slash at it, you just try to mess up his perfect game. There are some people like just mess it up.
Just get anything.
Just do anything just to mess up the perfect game. Yeah. And there's this talk and we always, and this was just like, you know, when you're dudes, you have these hypotheticals in your head, like, oh, what would you do? Would you try to do that? Where you just try to bunt, slash, you do anything just to mess up the perfect game. Mm-hmm. And to me, I just wouldn't want to be in that situation because if it's a context of like, it's this guy's last game pitching and he's at a perfect game and then you're the last out. Do you really want to be the guy who's like, I messed it up?
That's different because you're not winning the game for your team. You're still losing. This is a win.
No, but it talks about legacy and it talks about just the moment. Like, is this moment about you or is it the moment about him?
Yeah.
If I'm breaking up the perfect game, I'm trying to make that moment in this context. I feel like it's more about me. I feel like, oh, I'm going to try to do everything to mess up this guy's moment.
Well, that's a jackass move.
Well, and that's just the kind of way I take it. If Kevin Van Dam somehow has a chance to win the very last event, I believe. Oh, we got a good comment here. I believe in order for Becker to win AOY, he had to win that tournament also. That is some very good information, and I bet a bunch of people, because I have like 30 text messages right now, are probably saying the same thing. However, if Matt Becker had have dialed it back, then he probably would not have won. Oh, that's such an interesting context there. But still, I don't know if it's Kevin Van Dam's last event. That's just what's so weird to me. I don't know if I would dial it back a little bit more because that's what's so interesting to me is
but
like
he had to make a name for himself.
I know, but in this fishing group, they tell you the scores as the day goes on. Mm-hmm. If this was bass, 100%, I have nothing there because like you don't know. You fish as hard, you don't know. Right. You don't know where it ends up. Okay. But if everyone says like, hey, Kevin Van Dam's a pound behind you, I don't know. It's just I would fish differently. I think it's like I might let him have that one. I might dial it back a little bit.
Jesse Wiggins probably fished differently.
Who the hell? What are you? Oh, okay. She's looking at the screen beside me. Like,
third
what the hell
place.
are you talking about?
Jesse Wiggins came in third place. Todd Faircloth probably fished differently, but not Matt Becker.
They got somebody else. Everyone's with you basically. Everyone's all Matt Beckard. Matt Beckard.
And you are so sentimental. This guy has the biggest heart in all the world. Tommy is mushy. And so sweet. He's so sweet. But at the end of the day, if you are in Thank you, David. See, David knows. He said, I was going to read it for the listeners. He said, you've got a big heart, Thomas, but I don't completely agree with you.
No, you good. You're good. No, it's okay.
You're allowed to disagree with him.
It's okay. Becker had to finish top 5. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I'm just saying, like, in my perspective, it's I could never be the guy to try to be up there to be the last out and just like purposely try to break up a guy's perfect game. Yeah. It's like at that point, it's like, I don't want that. It's like, you did your thing. I'm not just going to mess it up just to mess it up. And so if Kevin Van Dam could have gone out winning his last event, it's like, I don't know. I feel like it's going to be
that would have been
in your
food
head.
For your soul.
Because
Absolutely.
No one would have been upset if that happened too.
No.
If Becker,
everyone would have said rightfully so.
Yeah. If Becker loses that, it's like, okay, it's Kevin Van Dam's tournament anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, his last event ever. He wins it, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
All the accolades and shit. And so like, I feel like there's no pressure on you losing that.
No.
Which is weird. Isn't that weird? Like there's no pressure on you losing. There's pressure on you winning.
Yeah.
And that's so weird. Like example in horses, my team is really good. Border Patrol, there's no pressure on us winning, but there's a lot of pressure on us losing, if that makes sense. If Border Patrol wins, it's like, yeah, of course.
Right.
But if we lose, it's like, what the hell happened? Carol Ann, what'd you do wrong?
Right.
Did you
what
miss
happened?
a handoff, Carol Ann?
Injured?
Carol Ann, did you miss a handoff? Or something like that.
He did
Linda, did you miss a handoff? Did you forget what team you're riding for?
Stop it.
But the point is, if that happens, you see what I'm saying? It's like one is it's just such a weird angle versus winning versus losing. And for Matt, I mean for Becker, he was playing with house money.
Lonnie agrees with you.
I'm with Thomas. It would have been a great way to finish and would have gained a lot of respect for the older guys. Yeah, it's just and that's something else. Like let's say it's not Kevin Van Dam. Let's say it's Rick Clunn. Rick Clunn right now, he's still fishing professionally, and he's like, is he in his 80s? I want to Rick Clunn. I want to get his age right, not just guess out of my ass right now. Age, because he's still fishing.
77.
Okay, so Rick Clunn is 78, 77 years old. Oh, July 24th. Yeah, okay. If Rick Clunn is in second place by a couple of ounces, same thing. Mm-hmm. That I'm going to be real gut torn about if I was Becker. Again, I get you got to do what you do, but to me, it's like, okay, if it's Rick Clunn and he's about to win a Derby, because I don't think you knew this, but he won a couple of years ago on like the St. John's, and when he won, literally the whole field stopped what they're doing.
Oh.
The whole tournament series thing shut down. Yeah. Guys went there to help him because the fish weighed too much. So other pros helped him get his fish out of the boat, get him on stage. Whoa. People were holding cameras up because he was a big idol. And so I thought with Kevin Van Dam, I really was wondering if something like that was going to happen. But anyway, so those are the thoughts there with that. Let's see. David Williams. I'm sure all the pros would love to have you on tour with. Oh, Dave. I
agree.
I
agree.
Perfectly happy doing this. But yeah, thank you.
He would love it.
I don't know, honestly, if I, especially after listening to the podcast. That's a lot. If I made a contract in baseball back in the day, you're gone for 10 months out of the year. But the baseline contract is like $500,000, $300,000, roughly around there. Mm-hmm. Fishing is not that way when it comes to the money, and you're gone just as much, if not more. So it just doesn't justify it at all.
Yeah, but if it was 1 year and it got you experience,
one year
would
be fun. Before. Yeah, 1 year would be fun.
You're that kind of person that just wants to zing everywhere, do everything.
Zing everywhere.
Yes, you know it. You always are looking for something new.
I would love to do the Jeremy Wade thing though. That would be banging.
Yeah,
Jeremy Wade, where it's just like, all right, we're gonna go to the Nile and go fishing. That would be freaking awesome.
Yeah,
I want to go. I want to go to the North Pole and actually catch some. Yeah. Anyway, there's that.
I love that
thing. if I'm a young broke tournament angler, this is Phil. If I'm a young broke tournament angler, all respect to Kevin Dean, but I'm gonna have to nail that coffin shut.
That's what I'm saying, Phil. Right there with you.
Oh my god. Oh my god. That's why.
Like, all due respect, but also you worked hard.
I'm sorry. I gotta respond to so many text messages. I'm getting just loaded up. I just love it's a grandpa. I don't care. You're over your time now. No, I absolutely agree with that. I actually agree with that sentiment right there. Yeah. No, and that kind of Kevin Dam's career. It's really good. I'm glad that he made a run with it on his last one. It's just so hard, I think, in fishing. I think Hank Parker really did it the best. I know you're not going to know who that is. Hank Parker won a Bassmaster Classic on the James River a long time ago. I think my fans know what I'm talking about. And he kind of did what John Elway did. Do you know who John Elway is? He was a quarterback for the Broncos in Denver.
Oh, sports.
Yeah, sports.
No.
And he won a Super Bowl, and he was like, "I'm out. Peace, guys."
That's what I
was losing. I'm saying I agree with you, Thomas. But if I was Becker, Hammer, yeah. It's so weird. I think you're right, Looney.
But to put yourself in his shoes.
Yeah, that's the thing. Chris, like Becker's career earnings was like 300,000. He just won 200,000 yesterday. Jesus, wow, that's crazy. Good Lord. That's insane. Yeah, it's so weird. Like
sign me up, boys. I'm ready.
I would want to know what's going through his head.
You're getting all kinds of text messages.
Yeah, Billy Cole, you got a photo shoot. Yeah, isn't that so weird though? So anyway, I'm sorry, just to finish my thought, and then we can kind of wrap up for tonight.
Yeah.
John Elway, he won a Super Bowl at the top of his game, and he basically was like, "I'm done." And people were like, "Wait, what? We're gonna give you a contract extension." And it was like for a ton of money. He's like, "I'm just done. I'm gonna retire right now on top." And that's so freaking hard to do as an athlete. And, I think the best baseball movie I ever watched, and I cried a little bit, was For the Love of the Game with Kevin Costner. It talked about an athlete being like, my career's over. And like, you have to deal with something. This has been you. And athletes have a horrific time. When do I leave and step away? And I feel like so many of us, I'm an athlete too, I guess, in that sense, is like we're gambling addicts. We just keep, we can go one more season. We go, look at my mom. My mom is like 108.
She is not that old.
And she's still competing in sports.
She's like early 60s.
Yeah. Oh, she's still competing in sports. But the fact is that she's still going at it. She's taking the testosterone and all that stuff just to make sure that she's ready to go. And because she has that athletic spirit of like, you know what, I'm just going to roll the dice again and just see what happens. And my whole point of this, like with Kevin Van Dam, it's interesting to think in his head why he wanted to step down. And I get that he's had a shit ton of interviews and everyone has asked him that. And I wouldn't want to interview him because you're not going to get the real answer from him. But to know in his head, what in his head said, like, this is time to step back, really. Like that's got to be a hard decision when you are kind of the king, to just have that, I want to step back and do something else. And how hard that's got to be. Like if you just stopped horses, like competing in horses, and you're like, well, this part's done now. Yes, you're saying that now, but imagine at that point in your life, you're like, I'm done.
Oh, Logan has something to say. Oh, Shane says he has so much fishing knowledge, it's hard to step away.
I know it's hard. And that's why I think it's just so interesting. Like that's almost a great TV show right there. A movie you could make just about athletes like wrangling with the idea of retiring. Okay. That's just so freaking hard to do. You want to say that?
Go to Logan Welch. Oh, Logan Welch said, whoever asked about fishing, we fish every Thursday, 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock p.m. and alternate between 4 locks and big slack water. But
I asked,
who do we get in contact with when you want to fish? Who do you ask for? Do you ask for Logan Welch? Do you walk up with your $20 bill?
I think Logan just answered the question. I think it's just basically we show up.
You just show up
with $20.
5 to 8. All right.
No, I think it starts at 5 when the boats go off.
Right,
at 5.
the boats launch at 5, so you need to be in the water by like 4:30.
Got it. So we'll just call this the Thursday nighter at the river.
Yeah. Okay, so you look for Logan or Brandon Rowland.
Got it. So I will do, when I re-upload this, guys, I'll do a better write-up with all that information about getting in contact with Brandon and who to meet, just Brandon so you're not giving your money to a drug dealer or something. Like, oh, just look for Brandon.
Right. Yeah, because it's not like that. he loves to stretch the truth.
It is Hagerstown. I believe KVD's reasoning is a lot of changes have been made, and the fishing sport has gone away from the way it used to be. Yeah, it really has. No, and technology is a big issue with that too. I mean, there's so much freaking technology, and there's so much drama now around the sport. I mean, you look at what Trait Zaldane is doing. It feels like every podcast she's on, and she's the wife of a professional angler, or at least, let me recontextualize it. The Bilge podcast with Trait and Chris Zaldane. Every time they have an episode, it seems like they drop bombshells, and I think there's a lot more drama. I don't know. I don't know if there's a lot more drama in the industry now, or if it's just more noticeable because now everyone tries to have a voice, or it's what's happening in the fishing industry now is what you're seeing that happens in the comedian world, Hollywood, things like that. Because a lot of us, at least me and you, we watch like Two Bears, One Cave, the Joe Rogan, things like that, and a lot of big podcasts, they create drama sometimes.
Yeah.
Just because it gets clicks. And this is not Joe Rogan experience at all. He doesn't do that. But like Two Bears, One Cave, other people like that, they create like the Garth Brooks drama and all that stuff.
Yep.
They create drama because it's clicks. And so you wonder, is it because everyone has a podcast now or a voice? Let's create some drama because it creates views, which creates brand opportunity. How much of it is that versus nowadays that there is more drama going on than before? I don't know.
There's more drama going on than before. Probably, we don't need to get into this because we got to wrap it up. But it's because
you're dealing with drama too, right?
People's lives are so public. That's why there's more drama out there, is because people know too much about what's going on in business that is not their own. That's what it boils down to. Too much information is shared from people's, intimate lives with the general public. So there are a lot more opinions out there about things.
I mean, do you think that creates issues? I mean, this is gaming, right?
Yeah, I think it creates issues.
Catching big fish gets more views, no drama needed. Yes, I agree with that. But does drama get views? I believe it does.
Yes.
I don't think it's the same view, though.
No.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Different kind of view.
It's a different kind of view.
Right.
That would be a great topic too for another show. I'm gonna write that down. It's it is, because you see that on YouTube a lot where people will do like dramatic videos, and there's no substance. It's almost like junk food. Yeah, drama views are like junk food. You eat it, but there's no substance there. Man, great show. This is your first time on the Fishing the DMV podcast.
It is. You've asked me to be on before. I think I was on for millisecond.
You're on a live stream, I think, at Richmond Expo. Yeah,
Richmond Expo, just for a tiny little second, but my brain was elsewhere, so it didn't go very long. I was prepared this time.
You were prepared this time, and hopefully this means more wins to come. Again, guys, like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out in the algorithm. Again, I want to say thank you for everyone who's actually. There's still a whole other layer of drama around big fish, Shane. LOL. Yeah, okay. Phil just brought this up. So yeah, so if you look at like the big fish drama situation, yes, and there's layers to it. Okay.
Phil's big fish.
Phil, yeah. Well, the problem is I think Phil.
Where was he fishing at?
Phil. Was that
Photoshop?
It's either Photoshop or the Bass Pro Shop Aquarium, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know which. Wait, aren't you in the ocean right now?
Fishing there.
Yeah, we probably should take you there instead of the Upper Potomac. We'll do that. But anyway, with all that said, guys, like and subscribe to the channel, and we will see you guys next time on Fishing the DMV. Bye.
You're listening to Fishing the DMV with your hosts Thomas Ahrens and Jared Mounts. Fishing the DMV is brought to you by Jake's Bait and Tackle, located in Winchester, Virginia.
If that doesn't get you jacked up, I don't know what will.